Okay, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to our earnings reports, potential opportunities event. You got John Hopkins here, Tom Bowley going to jump in just a minute. Today's November 4th, 2019. So tonight is really, we've done a couple of these recently and had very good feedback from folks. Got a bunch of earnings coming out this week. So we decided to have another one today. And today, Tom Bowley is going to be looking at companies that are reporting earnings this week and the ones that have caught his attention. Going to share that with everyone. This event is being recorded. I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of the recording in case you have to leave or if you have any problems, listening. This really isn't a Q&A session. Really, this is more a Tom laying out stocks that he thinks could make a move. So if you do have any questions, you can always go to our website, go to the contact section, send us an email, and we will try to get back to you. I've got one thing I want to do before I bring Tom, and I do this every event. Everybody knows it, except if you're brand new, you wouldn't know it. But every time we have one of these webinars, we have new people coming in. We have members who are monthly, and we always present a webinar special where you get a chance to save a lot of money. I won't spend a lot of time on this. So I just want to bring it to your attention. If you go to our website, earningsbeats.com, you'll see the webinar special. Click on it, and you'll see the deal you get for an annual membership. You'll save a lot of money because it's $97 a month, which totals $11.64 a year over 12 months. Regular annual membership $697, but you'll save $100. So you get some great savings. We've got a lot of things coming up, including our top 10 stock picks webinar. That's coming up on the 19th of November, just a couple of weeks from now. The other thing I want to mention that's, I think, a big deal is if you're an annual member, you get access to this relative strength industry group chart list. There's 104 industry charts, and once you become an annual member, you get access to that, and you've got it as long as you want it. So we restrict it to our annual members because it's an important list. And trust me, using that list along with our strong earnings chart list, which, by the way, we're getting ready to update today for everybody, it's a very powerful tool. Anyways, what I'll do is I'll leave this open until tomorrow because I know a lot of people won't be able to come in here live. They'll be listening. So anybody who wants to take us up on this deal, it's really the time to do it is between today and tomorrow. Okay, on that note, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring Tom Bowley in. He's going to talk to you about a number of stocks. Take it away, Tom.
All right, thanks, John, and good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Yeah, this has been kind of a growing event in terms of popularity recently, and I have to say, anybody who's been a member of Earnings Beats for a while or who's followed me for a while, I'm not a big fan of holding stocks into earnings because it is a gamble. But from a lot of the work that I've done and some of these webinars, I think if you've been around, you know that, while we can't be sure what is going to be coming out from management teams when they report their earnings, we do have to recognize that Wall Street analysts go out and meet with these companies leading up toward earnings. There's a quiet period right before earnings that they can't talk to them. But prior to that, they can go out and meet with management teams, something you and I can't do. And they get a feel for how the quarter's coming along and, if they've got new products, how those are selling, how's the company doing relative to its competition? What new opportunities do they have? Are they opening up any new offices? I mean, they get all this information. They go back to their office and they buy for their own accounts, for their client accounts. And So the way we see it, we can't go out and meet with the management teams, but we can start to get a feel at least for maybe what was said and how the analysts have reacted to it by simply following the price charts. So relative strength, I think, plays a pretty big role in this. We've talked a lot about it, and I'm going to go ahead and show you first. We're going to start off by looking at 15 stocks. I'm not going to pull them all up, but I'll just show you a summary of the 15 stocks that we had discussed prior to the earnings reports coming out. If you recall, this started, I don't know, maybe a little over a week ago. Well, it started a long time before that because we've been in the Earnings Beats Digest, been talking a lot about earnings and relative strength and what charts look like going into earnings and, trying to look for signals and so forth. But last week, probably about 10 days ago, we had an offer where if you signed up, we'd give you 5 stocks that were going to be reporting on Monday. And those are listed here as October 28th. And then that was really popular. So we ended up coming back and doing another one almost right on its heels. And there were 10 stocks. And those are the ones here that are listed on October 30th. And so these 15 stocks I just have in a chart list. And I thought what I would do is just show you, this is a summary of how they've performed over the last week. Now, this isn't perfect because they didn't all report at the same time. Some of these gains or losses could reflect some gains prior to earnings. I'm just bringing it up to show you how these stocks have been performing basically over the last week. And you can see that the majority of them have done very well. Top handful have done extremely well. There's a couple on the bottom that haven't done well. But I just wanted to go over and just share a couple of things that were kind of constant with these companies. One thing, if you look at the sector and industry group, you're going to see a lot of these that did very well are semiconductor stocks. Semiconductors are doing extremely well overall. And if you have a leader in a group that's doing really well, I think that's a good sign that the market is expecting big numbers. And you can see the 3 top performers are all semiconductors. So let's take a look at a couple of these. UCTT, this is Ultra Clean Holdings. These are the 3 days since they reported. You can see very heavy volume. It's been going straight up. I don't know that I would, there's probably a notion out there that if a stock's been going up like this into earnings, it's already overbought, that it can't go higher. I don't know that I would agree with that at all. You're getting new information, and if that information is strong, then the stock price should be reflected. Now, sometimes because you have a big run into earnings, you can argue that, hey, a lot of the good news is already built in. And I'll show you a chart where I think that was pretty evident. But first, just take a look at these. And this is kind of what I look for when I'm going into an earnings report. If I were going to hold, what I'd want to see is pretty strong volume trend. So when you get these moves to the upside, I like to see the heavier volume coming in right here. Nice 3-day move, nice volume. When we pull back, maybe there's some decent volume in here, but overall it's less than what we see on the moves to the upside. So volume trends are strong. That would be number one. But the big one is the relative strength. So you know that the semiconductors are breaking out and moving to all-time highs. You can see on a relative basis, the semiconductors have been rising versus the S&P 500 for 5 months. And then you look at a stock like UCTT, and I see a stock that before earnings was trading at a 52-week relative high to the semiconductor index. So it's not only in a strong group, but it's one of the stronger stocks in the group. That tells me that Wall Street is placing its bet on UCTT. And if they're placing their bet, then I'm going to expect good results. And that's what we had here. If I look at something like AMKR, here's another one, huge gap up. But look at what was going on before that. Here you can see the semiconductors moving up and on a relative basis moving up. But AMKR had moved to about an 8 or 8.5 month relative high to the semiconductor group. So again, you've got a strong group, but you've got one of the stronger stocks. And very similarly, look at the move back here, very heavy volume. Here's a nice little 3-day push here, good solid volume. Prior to earnings, 3 more days up, nice increasing volume. I think, again, Wall Street is giving us a sign. And here we got a big move to the upside, you can see. Now, they all didn't work out that way for the semiconductors, and I want to bring up KLA 10 Core because this was an outstanding report. But you can see the stock over the last week is actually down 0.5%. And when you look at what it did, this is a stock that had gone from $101 back at the beginning of June all the way up to $175 in October. So there's a lot built into a stock like this. And so even though they had great results, and this is what makes holding into earnings so difficult sometimes, you've got different companies all in the same space, all leaders. They all reported great results. Some of them took off, and KLA, if you held this one, it may not look like much, just a little bit of a pullback and then move back to the upside. But if you look at an intraday chart, the stock had closed around 173, and at the very opening the next day, even after posting great results, the stock had dropped probably about 7 or 8%. It was down all the way to about 160, 161 pretty early in the day. And it wasn't until about 10:15, 10:30 that we started to see the recovery taking shape on the stock. So imagine holding the stock into earnings and then seeing it down $12 or $13 early the next day. It would be really emotional, very difficult to hold on for the ride. And yet, technically, when you look at the daily chart, there was nothing wrong here. We just went down, went below the 20-day intraday, but came back up, held above it, and we just continue to trend higher. I think KLA looks great. But in that moment, it would have been very difficult. So just want to point out that when you hold into earnings, there's just no guarantees. You might have everything picked correctly, have the right company, the right industry group, and then just like KLA, down $12, $13, 7-8% at the open the next day. And then you've got to start working with your emotions. Do I get out now? And then you get out, then you see it reverse back up $5. Then what do you do? That's the emotional game that's played around earnings season. So the whole idea behind what we've been doing is that if you're going to hold stocks into earnings, I wouldn't just try to pick one, because my luck, I can tell you, if I just picked one, it would be MDC. That would just be the one, my luck, that I would be, going into thinking I'm gonna hit it big with the earnings report. Take a look at MDC. I mean, stock had been going straight up, very similar to KLA. I mean, this is a huge move heading in, toward earnings. Home builders, very strong. And here, MDC, essentially a week before its earnings report, was at a 52-week relative high. I mean, there was nothing wrong here. MDC came out, they missed their top line, missed their bottom line. I was shocked. But it happens. Maybe they just weren't forthcoming with Wall Street. I can tell you, though, that Wall Street doesn't like that. And there's 3 million shares, by far the biggest volume day of the year. And this stock, which had closed close to 44, was down to 35 and change intraday. And after a little bit of recovery, you can see the last couple of days, we're turning back down again. I think a stock like this is broken. When the market's expecting a really solid report and you come up and drop a bomb on Wall Street, I think it can take a while to get their trust. So when I see something like this, a big miss and a move down, that probably, if I'd held, I probably would have gotten out at the open, or certainly pretty early, as it was just free falling, because I wasn't expecting a miss. But I just want to lay that out there because we don't know going into these earnings reports. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't guarantee anything. I can only say that using relative strength, I think, improves our odds. No guarantees. All right. So having said all that, and knowing that the results can be all over the place, I'm going to give you some more stocks tonight that look good to me heading into earnings this week. I'm going to start off with a couple of stocks that report it in the morning, tomorrow morning. Obviously, it's too late to get in unless you want to do after hours, which I usually don't do. But I'm going to go back here and see if I can. I had these charts already set up a certain way. All right, I think this is what I wanted. Yep. Okay, so here's a company reporting tomorrow, EMR, and I'm going to go through, I don't know, probably 30 stocks maybe. I'm going to go through them pretty quick. EMR, big move up here on a relative basis. And you can see the group is getting close to a breakout. Beautiful move here last couple of months. Great relative strength over the last few months. And for the most part, pretty solid volume trends. Broke out to a new high today. We will see what happens in the morning. Next up is AVNS. This is one medical supply company, and it's a stock that was at a 52-week low about 2.5 months ago relative to its peers. And all of a sudden, it started to pick up again, and medical supplies have started to pick up. And if you look at the last 30 days, a lot of good volume coming in on this push to the upside. It has made a big move already. So maybe it's going to pull back after they report, but I believe they're going to report something big based on the way this is trading. So AVNS, I mean, even just a normal move, kind of like KLA, just a pullback to test the rising 20-day would be a drop of over 10%. So keep that in mind. Maybe if they come out with great numbers and you see the stock go down intraday below the 20 and then come back up above the 20, that might be a signal to get in. There's a lot of different ways to trade these stocks. You don't have to be in before the earnings. You can be watching to see how they do afterwards. All right, next up is BMCH. I've talked about this stock quite a bit, and I've talked about it in the daily market report. It's one of my favorites in the home improvement group. You can see home improvement stocks still near their high. This is a stock that just a week or two ago was near its 52-week high. Great volume trends on these moves to the upside. I expect we'll see good numbers here with BMCH. All right, tomorrow night reporting. PODD. Now, when we get to Wednesday and Thursday, I've done the next 3 days. When we get to Wednesday and Thursday, I didn't segregate or I didn't identify morning versus afternoon. So you'd have to look that up. But here on Tuesday, I did, since obviously it's a big difference. There's no regular trading before these earnings reports come out tomorrow morning. All right, so for tomorrow evening, PODD, Insulet Corp. This one's a little, you can see the relative strength the last 30 days basically has been going down, but it's holding on to support. I really like the volume on this push back to the upside. And as it's been drifting to the downside, it's still holding on to gap support around 140, and the volume's been light. I wouldn't be surprised to see another big push to the upside. We saw one back in August with earnings, big volume. After earnings came out in early May, same thing. This company has a history of doing pretty well after its earnings report. Certainly in 2019, that's been the case. So I just think this one, based on the fact that it's still close to a relative high, I wouldn't be surprised to see a big report here. KAR, this is Car Auction Services. Now, another one where the overall group has started to turn a little bit lower, but just a week ago, we hit a 52-week relative high on the stock versus its group. Here was one big volume day, but it really didn't do anything that day. I'm not quite sure what happened. I didn't go back to look for news, but there really wasn't much technical action in terms of price. So I kind of ignored that, but I think overall it's just been consolidating here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this break back out to a new high after earnings. All right, ICHR. This one, you got to be careful because you can see the volume sometimes isn't very heavy. Today, 391,000 shares, and that's a pretty heavy volume day for this stock, but it's in semiconductors. We just saw a bunch of these semiconductors coming through with big reports. Beautiful move up in the semiconductors, and this stock, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, has probably gone up about 35%. So it's anticipating a very big report. I think we'll get it. There's your relative strength breaking out to a new high. MODN. This is Model N. The overall group last 3 months been down a little bit, starting to turn back to the upside, but look at the relative strength here. Really strong, and look at all the volume. I mean, clearly volume trends are strong, so I think we'll have a good report here. ATUS, this is in the telecom space, telecom equipment, which also has not been very strong in the last few months, but this company has, and for the most part, pretty decent volume trends on the way up. Look at the stock at a 52-week relative high to telecom equipment. All right, let's move on. I'm going to go on to Wednesday. These are companies that will be reporting Wednesday. Again, you'll have to check to see if they're before the market or after the market. I'm just going to give you the stocks. MFC, Manulife Financial. This is a life insurance company. Life insurance starting to come back with the overall financials beginning to strengthen. You can see up near 800 at the close today. That's the highest level this these past 3 months. And Manulife Financial has been one of the best performers within this space. FLT, this is Fleet Core Technologies. It's just been consolidating, but that's not bad when the overall group's been going down. What that means is that we just broke to another 52-week relative high. I think this is one to keep an eye on that could break out as well. CVNA. CVNA, sideways consolidation, really off of an uptrend. I see a cup, a little bit of a handle here. The specialty retailers at about a 3-month high. They're starting to strengthen again. And here is a stock that is very close to a 52-week high relative to the group. So I think Wall Street likes it. We did see a nice gap up back in August. So we'll see whether or not we get another one. I think this one could break out above that 85 level. All right, Horizon, HZNP. Horizon Therapeutics, this is in the pharma area. Pharmas have all of a sudden started to get some strength here going about at a 3-4 month high, and this stock just set a new 52-week high on the close today. I think we are looking at a pretty good report coming out from HZNP. All right, SEDG, this is Solar Edge Technologies. Renewables are incredibly volatile. Those of you who've been members here, earnings beats for a while know ENPH has been all over the place for the past couple quarters. 14 to 34, and then all of a sudden 34 back down into the teens. SEDG's also made a big run to the upside, but it's been holding on to its relative strength a lot better until just these past few days. We'll see what comes out tomorrow. A lot of folks have been getting into this stock ahead of its earnings. I would expect that they're going to have a good report. Enphase had a good report. The stock still went down. So there's, again, no guarantees, but SEDG does look good heading into earnings. Another semi, BRKS, Brooks PRI Automation. Beautiful move here, breaking out the new highs. You can see this stock doesn't trade a whole lot of volume either, but last 3 months, it has been trending higher. It's not at a 52-week high versus the semis, but it has been outperforming the semis during this run over the last 3 months. So I think we're going to have a pretty good report here. NTRA, this is Natera, medical supply company. Medical supplies have been strengthening. Natera has been on a tear. Continues to trade higher on a relative basis. Has been one of the best performers in the medical supplies area. I think we'll get another big report here. ODP, talked a little bit about specialty retailers. This one had been in a downtrend for quite a while, and for those of you who like small stocks, $2.18 is where it closed today. So it's got, obviously a stock that's been beaten down for quite some time, but it has made pretty good strides early September. Big move here. That's about a 40% move on the stock price over a week with some very solid increasing volume. Then after a pullback, another big volume day, huge hollow candle, and we've continued to see this push to the upside. Last 2 months after bottoming, this has been one of the leaders in the specialty retailer space, and with that volume coming in, just wonder if they got some good news coming. INFN, Infinera, another semiconductor, breaking out to a new high, new 52-week price high on an absolute chart. It hit a relative low all the way back in July, began to strengthen here on very heavy volume, had a huge move, and for the most part has just been consolidating those gains. When you go from $2.80 up to about $5.50 in a month, you deserve sideways consolidation. That's what we've gotten. I wouldn't be surprised to see a big number come out here. All right, going to move on to Thursday now. Got a number of stocks on Thursday. First, Booking Holdings. Booking Holdings off an uptrend, nice little cup coming back down in a handle here. This one, relative to the travel and tourism group, is near its 52-week high. Would not be surprised to see Booking come out with a solid report. Zetas, not quite sure how to pronounce it. Here's a stock, though, that has been uptrending for quite some time, even though the pharmas overall have gone nowhere. So what does that mean? You've got a continual outperformer here with ZTS. Be looking for a pretty good report. Cardinal Health. This one looks really good to me. You can see the volume really picked up as it broke out above this area. Really, it struggled several times between about $49 and $50. Finally got through and the volume was picking up. It just seems like it wants to go higher here with nice volume trends. And look at the relative strength. Bottomed all the way back in June on a relative basis when the when medical supplies broke below that late May, early June low right here. CIH did not. Cardinal Health actually held this multiple times and now has started moving off of it. So you're starting to see this relative strength build. I think there's probably a reason for it, and we'll likely find out with earnings. X-Ray, XRAY, also continuing to strengthen here over the course of the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's just been a really good, solid, long-term performer versus the medical supplies group. And as I mentioned, medical supplies starting to catch a little bit of fire. PEGA, this is Pegasystems. Haven't talked too much about software stocks, but I got to give a little bit of love to Pegasystems because the stock isn't far from a 52-week high, and we know how many of these software stocks have been hit hard. Now, Pega didn't necessarily have the huge run-up over the summer that many of the software stocks did, so maybe that's why it's holding up. But I just like the fact that this relative to the software group is near a 52-week high, and on an absolute chart, it's not far from being a 52-week trading at a new 52-week high. So this is one I would expect we could see a good report out of. RBA, Ritchie Brothers Auctioneers, been a great performer. This was an earnings report back in August, big volume. It has just continued to push higher and higher, and that relative strength just keeps building and building. So this one looks pretty good. SWCH, Switch. Now this one, I'm kind of going out on a limb a little bit. And I'll tell you why. I love the move here back in August. Look at this huge move higher here. $13 up to $17. Look at the volume pickup and look at the relative strength. Since then, I think the stock has just been sideways consolidating, and for the most part on very light volume. I don't know. This one I'm just going to take a little flyer on. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one gap back up near that 17 level. ESI, and I've got about 8 more here. Element Solutions just breaking out here above these prior highs. We're now trading at about an 8-month absolute high. And over the past 2 to 3 months, relative strength. We're starting to see a lot more relative strength here in the stock. Maybe we'll find out why on Thursday. LPSN Live Person. Really like the break here to a new 52-week high on a relative basis. This too in the software space. Not too many software stocks showing this strength on a relative basis. So I think this one could have a pretty solid report. If there's one thing that bothers me is that as it's made this breakout to new highs, the volume kind of went away. But we had a ton of volume back in August on this first move. So anyway, I think we'll get a good report. WMS, this is Advanced Drainage Systems. It is in the building materials and fixtures area. This group has been very strong, as you can see, and this stock is one of the leaders in the group. So I would suspect we're going to have a strong report. Sally Beauty Holdings, SBH, finally coming off of these lows. You can see the volume pick up here. There's about 5 days where this stock went from 11 and change to 15 on increasing volume. I just noticed that also sent the relative strength to new highs. Now all of a sudden, looks like that relative bottom was in back in July, and we have been trending higher for the last 4 months. I don't know that it's totally out of the woods, but I think we could get a good report here. CORT, this is Corcept Therapeutics. Again, the pharma's been going nowhere. This stock went nowhere until we got to about the June, July timeframe. Now it's gone from about $10.50 up to $15. Really strong move while the overall group hasn't really done much. That's leading to a lot of relative strength here. We'll see if that leads to a beat on the top and bottom line. BCC, this is Boise Cascade Company. Really nice looking chart. Stocks run up quite a bit. The relative weakness ended back in June. We are now moving up, and we are at about a 11.5-month relative high on BCC. So looks to me like maybe banking on some good numbers here. SYNA, this is Synaptics, breaking out the last 2 days, increasing volume. This is in the computer hardware space. I've been talking about computer hardware being one of the best areas of the market. I've been a big fan of Apple for a while, continues to move higher. Well, Synaptics is another one in the space. This one's starting to gain strength, And you can see it looks like breaking out to a relative 6-month high on today's move in absolute terms. So really nice looking chart. And the last one I have for you is PRFT, Proficient. This is a company that when you look back at these big volume bars, every time we have a good move to the upside, it seems like it coincides with an increase in volume. And that's a pretty good sign of accumulation when I see that. And also, even though we've pulled back here over the last week or so, we just hit a 52-week high. This has been a pretty big move up the last quarter, especially in terms of relative strength in a group that has not performed well, and the volume is supporting it. So I would suspect PRFT is going to have a good report as well. Anyway, that is about it. I wanted to try to get this done in 30 minutes. I think I've done it.
You did it.
I did it. So those are a bunch of stocks. I didn't even add them up, but I got to believe there's probably close to 30 of them that I just went over.
Yeah, I want to mention before anybody leaves here, we'll be able to get the recording out, I think, tonight, and we'll send you the list in the members. We'll send you a list in the email. If you're not currently a member of Earnings Beats, you can go to our website. I mentioned to you before, and let me just pull it up one more time, if I may. And like I said, I'll go ahead and leave this open till tomorrow so you have time to check it out. But it'd be great, to have you with us for the next year. So much going to be going on. Going to be more of these events, 4 quarters over the course of a year that you get involved with us on the earnings side. It's really great. Anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up time, did a half hour, and I want to wish everybody a great evening.
Everybody have a great night. Happy trading tomorrow.